Hello, my friend, welcome. Chances are the reason you're here watching this video is because you have an interest in improving your life and your emotional and mental and spiritual health by delving into digital minimalism and seeing if by limiting your phone usage or maybe even letting go of your smartphone altogether could actually bring you to a deeper sense of fulfillment in your life. So I wanted to take this space here to share my own story and my own journey. I've shared videos on my YouTube channel throughout my journey to living phone free, but I haven't shared an update about where I am currently in a while. I've been using a flip phone for about 5 months now, and I couldn't be happier with where I am in my journey. My flip phone stays usually off or in an idle position, and it's only used when I'm traveling in case of emergency, needing to get in touch with someone and I don't have access to a landline. Otherwise, I communicate strictly through a landline in my house or through my computer via email or a messaging system or a video call. This journey has taken years, and I wanted to take you through a little bit of a timeline. When I first started delving into digital minimalism was in June of 2019. I was at this point going off-grid sometimes, and I was using that term off-grid in a lot of my videos. I shared a couple of videos on my YouTube channel about living off-grid, going off-grid for trips, surf trips, hiking trips. I would essentially, at this stage, and this was the first stage for me, step one, I would plan trips and either not have my phone on, or I would delete social media apps off of my phone. So my phone would still be available for calls and text messages if needed, but I wouldn't have those constant notifications from social media apps. And what this did was it really helped me to become more present with every moment of those really wonderful trips. So whether it was surfing or hiking, I wanted to be fully present and absorb all the experiences that that trip had to offer me. I found that when I was on my phone constantly, even if it was for taking pictures, it took me away from the present moment. So I wanted to tap into that more deeply, and I did that by deleting social media, turning off notifications, and really leaning into writing down notes about what I wanted to gain from that trip, what I wanted to experience, things I wanted to do. So in 2019, that was my focus, was to temporarily disconnect from my phone. And that's what I did throughout 2019. As I did this, I began to feel better and better. And in October of 2019, I did a video after having just returned from hiking the Grand Canyon with my father. This was a trip that he and I had been planning for a long time. It was a wonderful family vacation, and we both hiked to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, spent the night, and hiked out the following day. The coolest part was that although I hadn't anticipated it, the disconnection was incredible. It gave me so many benefits, and when we were there hiking in the canyon, we had no service, we had no signal, we had no nothing. I didn't know what time it was. I wasn't able to send or receive messages. I wasn't able to even get phone calls, so I ended up just not taking my phone with me at all. I believe my father had his phone, but it didn't work. And it caused me to think about how connected I felt to everything. It was like everything went from being 2D to 3D. And I felt so stoked in the moment. I was very connected to my dad, who I was talking with, having a great time with, very present in the moment. The food was amazing. The experiences were amazing. The fresh air was amazing, and everything just felt so much more vivid without having that constant distraction in my pocket. So when I got back from that trip, I did a video going into a bit about, again, going off grid for that trip. I had also on that trip been not not having notifications on, not using apps. But then for that 2-day hike, I didn't have my phone at all. And it was this wake-up call, this real epiphany moment where I began to feel the deeper benefits of separating even more from smartphone usage. At that point in my life, I was a new author and I was constantly being told how important it is to connect with my readers and friends and people who might be interested in exploring my work. I had to keep putting stuff out there on social media, checking it constantly, and I was really wanting to have those connections, and I felt like in order to do that, I had to be on social media 24/7, always checking those messages, always being on top of everything on my phone. So when I went on this hike and I suddenly did not have that, I realized, wow, I've been feeling so exhausted. I've been feeling so burnt out. And this feels like an incredible recharge. This feels like rocket fuel for my creativity to have this separation from those constant notifications, those constant demands, those constant stimulation of the mind. So when I returned from that trip, I filmed a video, and in that video I talk a lot about being busy and how this hike was a bit of a break from that and how it recharged me. And this video also coincided with when I first started practicing meditation. I mentioned meditation in that video, and that was around the time that I started delving into a meditative practice. And that was also starting to bring me around to this idea that we don't always have to be busy. We don't always have to have something going on. Sounds familiar, probably. Society is telling us all the time that we need to constantly be productive. We need to constantly be doing something. I was starting to delve into this idea that I didn't need to always have something going on. And then that concept was being further cemented by this idea of disconnecting from my smartphone. By February 2020, at this point, I'm still using a smartphone, but I no longer had social media on it. So at this point, I was getting a lot more intentional about my communication. I had deleted all social media apps off of my phone altogether. I was only using them on my computer. I was being really mindful and intentional about how I was scheduling those things, how I was using those things. So that's where I was in February 2020. By March, I was noticing that I had increased clarity, increased creativity, and this was also when minimalism began to heavily impact my life. This idea of being very mindful and intentional about what we're bringing into our lives, what we're bringing into our space, and I was beginning to apply that to my phone. So I was talking a bit about organizing my phone in a minimal way and using it less and less. By September of 2020, my journey had progressed to the point that I was no longer using my smartphone except to make emergency calls or if I needed to make a business phone call or something like that. I didn't have my phone on. I kept it in an off position. If I needed to use it, then I would turn it on to make a phone call, to use the phone for what it was intended to be used for, a phone that we call someone on. It's amazing how things can get out of hand and start being used for purposes, so many different purposes that they were never intended to be used for. And for me, I had seen this dramatic shift at this point from my phone going from a source of constant stimulation and entertainment and reminders of business to something that I was using less and less and less often, to now at this point, September 2020, I was only using it to make occasional phone calls or send text messages if I had to. So by this point, I was being very influenced by minimalism and mindfulness. I was continuing my meditative journey, and I was noticing an energetic shift, not only in my spiritual and mental space and my spiritual life, but in how I was communicating with those around me. Now we're flashing forward to August 2021. At this point, I am only turning on my phone if I need it in case of emergency while I'm traveling, and my life had shifted into quite an emphasis on mindful communication through my computer. So that's one of the things I want to emphasize here, because a lot of you listening have businesses or work, or maybe you're an author, or maybe you're a creative of some kind and you want to be able to share your work through social media or the internet. We can still do that without being addicted to our phones. We need to find ways that work for us. And for me, what I did in my own journey, since this video is kind of highlighting what I did personally, was I made my computer my center of operation. So if you can do this, there's a lot of great tools and scheduling apps, and I will try to link some things below this video so that you can explore those options. You can integrate those into your computer, into your work routine, so that you're still sharing content or creative work on social media without having to have them on your phone, or without having to use a phone at all. If you choose to take the more extreme route of not using a smartphone whatsoever, you can still access all the same things on your computer. So that's what I was doing at this point. I was scheduling posts and interacting with a beautiful community through, at this point, my growing YouTube channel. And I was enjoying every moment of it so much more now that it wasn't invading every corner of my mind through the constant pinging of a smartphone. I was able to actually set aside mindful and intentional time to delve into answering messages, answering comments, making mindful, creative content for my friends to share with them in a mindful way. And I say mindful several times here because mindfulness is about your mind being full of one thing, not scattered on a bunch of different things. We humans are not good multitaskers, and I think science has proven that to us again and again. What smartphones try to train in us is a lot of bad habits. They instill a lot of bad habits that divide our time and attention. We're with someone, but we're not really with them fully because we're on our phone. And then when we're with that person, we're not really with them either because we're on our phone talking to someone else, or watching a video, or checking a message, or reading a news article, where it causes us to never really be fully one place at any one time. So as I began to release my need to constantly check my phone, as I slowly got away from that, as that addiction slowly broke, and yes, addiction is an appropriate word to use, and that's what even the health and medical field is calling it now, is social media addiction, phone addiction, digital addictions, whatever, because it is this constant craving that can actually instill so many negative habits into our lives. And it can leave us feeling stressed and anxious. And it can contribute to a lot of different health problems and mental health problems. By June 2022, which was my last update at the time of filming this video, this was my last update on my YouTube channel. I was only using my phone for emergency calls while traveling. So at that point, I had been going about a year of only turning my phone on when I was traveling in case of emergency. I had to make a phone call and I couldn't get anywhere else to call someone. If I had to get in touch with a family member, that's the only time I used my phone. I wasn't using it for anything else. And I was feeling so good. And what I find interesting is, as I was watching back through these different digital updates that I had put on my YouTube channel over the past 4 years, it's amazing how you can watch my energy and my not so much my personality, but the energy I'm exuding is so different from the first video to the last. My energy is so much calmer, and I feel like I look and sound so much more centered, so much more peaceful. Hello, my friends, how's it going? Today, we're going to dive into a topic that I'm very, very passionate about: going off grid, taking a break from all the things that connect us to actually and fully reconnect. Hello, my wonderful friend. Thank you so much for being here today. We're going to talk about how to take an effective and easy social media and phone cleanse. And the biggest thing I changed about my life was letting go of social media and slowly but surely letting go of my smartphone. I believe that this journey is accessible to anyone and everyone who wants to make this shift in their lives. I mean, let's face it, we live in a world today where society and culture and giant corporations worth billions of dollars have it in their vested interest to keep you distracted and absorbed in consuming constantly. But we're spiritual beings and we don't want to be in that destructive cycle of constantly consuming information, consuming stimulants for our brains. It's not healthy, and there's lots of research out there to back that up. Our brains need peace and quiet. And that was another thing that helped me a lot too, was incorporating meditation and minimalism and mindfulness practices. Where I'm at now, as I began this video, sort of touching on that, I use a flip phone. I've switched over to a flip phone, no longer have a smartphone, and I couldn't be happier about that decision. And it's transformed my life. I meditate every day. I still practice minimalism and mindfulness. Although I feel now my journey with minimalism has kind of landed more in this concept that's discussed in yoga of focusing not so much on how few things I can own, but how to enjoy and lean into the practice of non-excess, which is a yogic principle. Focusing on letting go of consuming all the time and being grateful and happy and grounded with this feeling of enoughness, that we have enough, we do enough, we are enough. Because minimalism isn't just about the things you own. When we focus on non-excess, we're also talking about not working excessively. We're talking about not worrying excessively. How many things in our lives are we constantly worried about? Are we constantly told to worry about? Our businesses, our work, our jobs, our families, our careers? What if we were to let go of some of that worry? And often, a lot of these things can come up because of our phones, because of the constant reminders we have to worry about things going on in the world, to worry about our fulfillment coming from the next thing we buy or consume or eat, or the next vacation we take, then we'll be happy. All those toxic concepts are things that really attribute to excess, things we don't need. And often the phone acts as a menu to serve up those unnecessary things that we could really do without. And if we were to let go of them, we could actually live a much more happy and fulfilled life. So that's where I'm at with my phone journey. And I want to emphasize here that digital minimalism doesn't happen overnight. When we feel like we're addicted to our phones, that's the first step, is to realize that there's a phone or social media addiction. And rather than cold turkey quitting overnight, we can come up with a plan and take steps towards slowly liberating our lives, mind, body, and spirit. So this has been a 4-year journey for me, as I said, starting in June of 2019. Slowly mitigating how I was using social media, deleting apps, limiting phone usage, incorporating minimalism, eventually shutting off my phone, only turning it on as an as-needed basis, incorporating mindfulness and minimalism and other spiritual practices, and eventually, ultimately, shifting over this past year in 2023, late 2023, I shifted over to a flip phone. It's been a long journey, but it's been a very rewarding and fulfilling journey, and I believe anyone can do this. So find what works for you. Take things step by step. First, start with seeing what apps you can delete. Delete the things that aren't necessary. Delete the things that aren't serving you, and see how that feels. Next, shut off all notifications, except for things that are vitally important, like a phone call or a text message, and see what it feels like to not have constant stimulation popping up on your phone, vying for your attention. Try that for several weeks, those two things, and just see how it feels. See how it brings your screen time down. Maybe keep note and keep track of your screen time from week to week, making a list, making a log of week 1, week 2, week 3, and so on. Check how much screen time you're spending and write them down so you can see your progress or see what you need to improve upon. Next, try going a week with shutting off your phone completely, or 3 days if a week seems like too long for you. Try that after a few months of practicing those first 2 steps. See how long you can shut off your phone, see how it feels. Maybe journal about it. Journal about what emotions come up for you. Journal about what feels better. And yes, it's okay to feel that urge, that need to look at your phone. It happens to all of us. It's part of the process. And finally, if all of those things help you, maybe that's where you stop. Find what works for you. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing. But if you want to take it a step further, see if you want to switch over to a flip phone. It's the lowest stimulation way that you can continue that phone communication if you need to use a phone for work or your business. You can still receive phone calls and text messages, but it's a very low stimulation interface, and it keeps you in check about not downloading those apps or going down the rabbit hole of social media, because you literally can't have those things. So find what works for you, find what feels good, find what serves you. Like I said, this is not about reaching some high place of spiritual health with your phone. I mean, that's great, but there's not levels to this. No one thing is better than the other. This is about what is serving you in your unique life. I've talked to many people about this issue. Some people tell me, Kate, I need to have my phone on for work, and that's fine. You can still reach this beautiful place of mental wellness and spiritual well-being and physical well-being and peace by simply putting a few things in place. We can take control of our lives, we can disconnect from the digital matrix, and we can reclaim our freedom by simply walking this path of digital minimalism and truly realizing that as wild beings, as we rewild, as we tap back into who we truly were created to be, these things start to become more and more easy. When we feel that we're coming back to who we truly are and we feel great in our minds and our bodies and our spirits, these things become easier and easier. So I hope this sharing helped you. I hope it inspires you. If I can do it, anyone can do it. And it's all about finding what works for you. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Please comment below and tell me how your own digital minimalism journey is going. If you want to get started right away with a cleanse, you can find the 3-day phone cleanse, smartphone cleanse, linked below. There's some printables that you can work with in that cleanse as well. It's a great way to get started. If you're not sure what to use for a jumping off point, this would be a good place to get going. Thank you for being here. Thank you for practicing with me, and I wish you so much joy in your journey. Thank you, my friend, from the bottom of my heart for joining me for today's video. If you enjoyed it, it always means the world when you check out Rewildest Life, my new membership platform. You can start your free trial today to get access to weekly meditations, weekly yoga sessions, live monthly coaching with me, and exclusive access to all kinds of mindfulness programs and retreats that I do on a regular basis. I would love to be able to serve you over there. I look forward to seeing what you think of the platform. I think it's really going to serve you. If this content resonates with you, you're going to love Rewildest Life. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you again soon.